When you live in a heart-centered, loving way and have heart-brain coherence, you're actually nudging your body into balance. You might be wondering, listening to this, what is heart-brain coherence and what it has to do with your perimenopause? Well, I am curious to learn all about it from our guest speaker, who is a holistic health coach and is passionate about the science and soul of healing, as she has personally witnessed the transformative power of nutrition, functional medicine, and epigenetics. She conducts Hormone Harmony program in which she teaches women to balance their blood sugar and hormones to reclaim effortless energy and fat loss. So let's welcome Rupina Meer on the Thrive In Perimenopause Summit. And you already know me, I'm your host, Sonal Singhal, and I'm all set to talk with Rupina on your behalf. So first of all, Rupina.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. First of all, Rupina, tell us a bit about your healing journey. What propelled you to go down to the path of holistic health, leaving your corporate job, supporting women with balancing their hormones?
Sure, absolutely. So yeah, I was like many of your listeners, I was in the corporate world. I have an MBA, steadily climbing the corporate ladder, fueling myself with caffeine, sugar, and stimulants. And I didn't know it at the time, but I was addicted to sugar. And then a few years after that, I had something called adrenal fatigue. With think of the adrenals as the shock absorbers on the body, and they allow us to adapt to life's different stressors. But when the adrenals get stressed out due to excess refined carbohydrates, too much stress, and they get burnt out, then it leads to something called adrenal fatigue, which conventional medicine doesn't really recognize that, but there's a plethora of symptoms that we recognize in functional medicine, and that all stems from hormones misfiring and from stress. So I had that. I mean, I just had multiple dark nights of the soul with my own health, and I was searching for answers. My sister is a conventional medicine doctor, and throughout grad school, I had immune dysregulation. I was constantly put on antibiotics, and I just had kind of chalked it up like, well, you know what? I have a weak immune system. I just have to suck it up and deal with it. But it never really resolved with conventional medicine. No matter I used to take plethora of different drugs and acids for my I was falsely diagnosed with GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease, which completely messed up my microbiome. And many of your readers may not know that 70% of the immune system actually resides in the gut. So when you keep taking antibiotics, they destroy all the healthy flora in the gut, and then that really
Rupina, I lost you.
downregulates your immune system. So again, I didn't realize.
Okay, you are back.
Okay. So yeah, I've had multiple dark nights of the soul with my own health, and I just could not find the answers through conventional medicine. So when I was down on my knees searching for a solution to my own multiple health crises, I've even had cervical cancer and different types of cancers. So, and my body did not respond well to pharmaceutical meds. I had a plethora of side effects. So I started searching. I started looking at nutrition, homeopathy. I took a radical left turn. I went back to school. I studied nutrition, holistic health, functional medicine. And then everything shifted in my life. And that's why I'm so passionate. Fast forward to 2011, when I not only healed myself from cravings and adrenal fatigue, estrogen dominance, which leads to hormonal cancers, that I healed myself, and I'm passionate about sharing this with other women who are silently struggling with all of these symptoms, and they don't realize that it all stems from hormones misfiring.
So, Rupina, what are some signs and symptoms when our hormonal imbalances happen, and why do hormones control the way we look and feel?
So yeah, I mean, that's a great question. So hormones are really the holy grail that control everything from your memory, weight, mood, libido, to your skin and hair. Everything is controlled by hormones. And when they start misfiring, so think of hormones like a musical orchestra. You have a bunch of different players. You have estrogen, you have progesterone, you have testosterone, DHEA, but think of cortisol, which is the main stress hormone, is the conductor of the
Mm-hmm.
orchestra. So hormones fit into each other like a lock fits into a key.
Mm-hmm.
So when cortisol gets out of balance and you're running around like a crazy person just checking off items on your to-do list, because most women have so much to do, they're juggling so many different jobs, being a wife, a mother, a chef, chauffeur, tutor, caregiver to aging parents. They just are, ruled by their to-do list. And when you're in that state, you're in sympathetic dominance. And so cortisol produces more of itself at the expense of all your other hormones. So, for instance, thyroid is the hormone responsible for your metabolism and for that slim, sexy body. Well, cortisol will go up and jam the thyroid receptor. So then the thyroid hormone can't get into the receptor.
Mm-hmm.
So many times, the work that I do, the way I was trained with Harvard MD Sarah Gottfried on the Gottfried protocol to balance hormones. And what we found working with thousands of women is that when you get cortisol in that sweet spot and it's not jamming up your thyroid hormone, your progesterone hormone, think of progesterone as the nature's Valium. So it gives you that soothe, calm, that beauty sleep, rejuvenative sleep, which a lot of women start struggling with that right around age 35 because progesterone is the first hormone to drop.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what happens. And when you can get cortisol in its sweet spot, then many times you don't need direct interventions with the hormone, with the thyroid or the progesterone, and they will fall back into place. Sometimes you will need direct intervention, and sometimes bioidentical hormones are needed, depending on the age of the person and how chronic the condition is. But oftentimes it is these are all lifestyle ailments. And so if you
Mm-hmm.
change the way you eat, sleep, breathe, and most importantly, the biggest part of my work is teaching my clients how to self regulate their nervous system, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because either you manage stress or it manages you and causes or exacerbates 99% of all disease. So I don't care what we're dealing with, whether it's cardiovascular disease, hypertension, cancer, it all starts with a cascade of inflammation, and it all starts with haywire cortisol levels.
So, how do you?
So, going back, I'm
Mhm.
sorry, there was
No,
the
no, it's
second
okay.
part of the question I neglected to answer, which you said, what were the symptoms? So, the symptoms can be, as I started out, first thing is the sleep.
Mm-hmm.
You just find that you're not getting that rejuvenative deep sleep. You're waking up several times a night. You have sleep latency. It takes a longer time to fall asleep. Then you find energy inconsistency. So you have to start your day with 2 to 3 cups of caffeine or some kind of stimulant to get going. Then you have a crash right around 2, 3 p.m. A lot of women tell me that they literally want to crawl under their desk and take a nap or go to their car and take a nap because they just feel so exhausted, like their batteries have run out. Like your cell phone, if you haven't charged your phone, it just runs out. Um, they have belly fat, a lot of fat around the waist and the belly that just won't respond to previous tips and tricks. For instance, a lot of my clients say, well, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I'm doing the calorie counting, or I'm doing intermittent fasting. I'm working out with a personal trainer 4 or 5 times a week, but this fat around the belly just won't budge. And I'm like, yeah, because you're actually overdoing it. Over exercising creates something called cortisol poisoning, and so
Mm-hmm.
it backfires. So the thing is that what most women don't realize is that the hormones are in flux during perimenopause, which starts around age 35, goes all the way up to age 50 till you hit menopause, right? And so some of the old tips and tricks that you did in your 20s and 30s may not work when you're in your late 30s and 40s. So it's
Mm-hmm.
about understanding that your metabolism is changing and how to have some biohacks and some lifestyle hacks to modulate those. So
Mm-hmm.
it's the belly fat. It could be hot flashes where you have this sudden heat in the upper part of your body. It could be leaky bladder or overactive bladder. It could be a feeling of arrhythmia or anxiety, again, because progesterone goes down, so women feel a lot of anxiety irritability, um, brain fog, so not being able to focus. Like before, they used to be really sharp and they could, like, whip through their to-do list, but now they find that they're really struggling and they're having little senior moments, memory lapses, brain fog. So it's just really a milieu of downstream symptoms, but it all stems from hormones misfiring. Does that
So
make
you,
sense?
yeah, it makes sense. And you said that progesterone is a key hormone because this is the one first time. I mean, this is the first one which start fluctuating, and then
Yeah,
other hormones follow.
exactly. Exactly. It's what's known as nature's Valium, so it's responsible for that deep sleep.
Hmm.
And yes, so when it's the first one that dips down during perimenopause, so most people, women start feeling that nervousness, irritability, sort of like a panic attack, elevated heart rate, like they feel very anxious at all
Hmm.
times. They feel very anxious. They're not able to sleep. It's called tired but wired. So you feel really tired, but there are these two opposing forces when you go to bed because your cortisol rhythm is dysregulated. So, cortisol and melatonin, think of them as two sides of the seesaw, right? You have a seesaw when cortisol is supposed to be really high first thing in the morning, and melatonin is supposed to be really low. And then at night, melatonin is supposed to be really high, and cortisol is supposed to be really low. But these days we have our, ubiquitous devices. We have the blue light from our device, which is melatonin suppressive. So right now, when we're on Zoom and it's 10:15 at night, that blue light is signaling my pineal gland and telling my brain that it's daytime, even though it's 10:30 at night over here. And it's telling my brain to start raising cortisol.
Hmm.
So there are some things you can do, like blue light filters or glasses that you can wear to sort of tell your body that it's not daytime and to not raise cortisol and to continue producing melatonin.
So, Rupina, hormonal fluctuations is something natural, when it comes to our midlife.
Yes,
But then, what happens, that we don't accept this fluctuation? I mean, which is
yes, that's
causing
a
the
great,
symptoms, because if we accept it, then there is no problem.
exactly. Exactly. I think there's a lot of cultural conditioning, right? Because in
Mhm.
our culture, menopause is considered like a death sentence, right? Like it's some kind of disease, but it's not a disease. It's just a natural progression where your ovaries, which are producing a lot of the sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, it dies down. But then the adrenals, which are these tiny little glands, they sit atop your kidneys. They weigh no more than a grape, but they're responsible for how you respond to stress, and then they're the backup organs. So when we officially go into menopause, the adrenals will produce at least 40% of the sex hormones, which is why it is so critical to manage stress, because when you're in menopause, the adrenals will be like your back. It's sort of like when there's a storm, right? And you lose electricity in the house, but if you have a backup generator, then you still have some lights on in the house because you've taken care and you've done the due diligence so that that backup generator will turn the lights on. The adrenals are your backup generator. So if they're in good shape during perimenopause, and they'll pick up the slack and they'll produce up to 40% of your sex hormones. But if you have adrenal fatigue and they're just burnt out, then those are the women who really go through a very rough time with perimenopause and menopause because they don't have that backup generator.
And what are the characteristics of such women?
Such women are type A, just, very driven, burning the candle from the boardroom to the bedroom. Like I said, they're go, 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 go. So there are two branches of the autonomic nervous system, right? There's the sympathetic branch, which is the gas. You keep pressing the gas. And then the counter opposite is something called the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the brakes. So we have to find that optimal rhythm between the gas and the brakes, right? To find your inner pause button and to slow down. Because guess what? When you're in sympathetic dominance, you will not heal from anything. You will not even digest. For instance, you had an altercation with,
Mhm.
say, your husband or your best friend or coworker, and found, and then you decided to eat. What happened to the meal?
Mhm.
What happened when you ate on the heels of an argument? What happened for you, Sonal?
When you are in the
Can
argument,
you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you. I mean, it's like,
Yes.
I will, maybe if I have my meal, I will be chewing it very fast and I'll not be paying attention to what I am eating.
Exactly. Exactly. And the food will often sit there like a ton of bricks and it will
Yeah.
rot because the body will doesn't realize that you've just had an argument. The body literally goes into fight or flight. So it thinks like there's a tiger chasing you. And
Mhm.
it's like this is not the time to digest food. I have to keep Sonal safe. So either she's going to run from the predator or she's going to hide,
Mhm.
right? Fight or flight. You either run away or you flee from the situation, right? So that is not the time to digest the food. So the food will just sit there and rot. You'll have gas, bloating, indigestion, because the body will say, this is not the time to digest food. But if you can take a few deep breaths before your meal, just I call it the 5-5-5 breath. So you breathe in deeply through your belly. We call it pranayama in yoga.
Mhm.
Your belly goes in and out, right? You do that 5 times. You inhale for a count of 5, you hold for a count of 5, and you exhale for a count of 5. And you do that 5 times. That is signaling the brain to switch you into parasympathetic. So before a meal, or even if you are really stressed, you can just do the 5-5-5 breaths. You're signaling the body, hey, it's okay. I may have a lot of stuff on my to-do list, but I'm not being chased by a tiger.
Mhm.
And so it can hit that pause button and it will allow you to go into parasympathetic, which is also called rest and digest. And
Mhm.
as the name implies, it's the optimal state to be in for healing and
Mhm.
rejuvenation and for balancing your hormones and your metabolism. So if you can shift more into rest and digest, then that's where the magic lies.
So, Rupina, my next question is related to what you just explained. And I wonder what is heart brain coherence and how it helps in hormonal balancing.
Absolutely. So they have found that there are 4,000 special cells called sensory neurites in the heart.
Mhm.
The heart is our center of attraction, right? And
Mhm.
so this was published in the Journal of Neurocardiology, and the name itself should tell you neuro is brain, cardiology is heart. There is actually a brain in the heart.
Mhm.
So most of the times when we go through trauma, whether it's childhood trauma, physical trauma, emotional trauma, an accident, grief, somebody passing away, let's say we work with a therapist or we work with a psychiatrist, right? We're mostly only processing that trauma from the lens of the brain.
Mhm.
And the brain is a polarity organ, so it judges everything as right, wrong, good, bad, success, failure. When we try to process past trauma only from the brain, it never really works because you're not involving the heart. But if you can achieve heart brain coherence, which is basically connecting the heart and the brain, because there is actually, like I said, there is a brain in your heart, and that
Mhm.
is signaling the brain in your head, and vice versa. So if you can connect and have harmony between the two, it's sort of like, when you flush out a sheet and the ripples of the sheet go through, it's like that harmonic cadence and rhythm, and that's signaling heart brain coherence. So a simple way, maybe we can demonstrate it for your
Mhm.
listeners if you'd like. So
Yeah.
first thing I would say is to just place your attention on your heart. You can place your hand there and just feel its beat. Close your eyes, go inwards, close your eyes, and just touch your heart. Feel the pulsating beat, feel the vibration. Okay. And then you're going to slow down your breath. So consciously slow it down. So inhale for 4, hold for 6, and exhale for 8. 4, 6, and 8. And do that 3 times. So that again, you're telling your brain that it's okay to slow down, and you're taking the elevator from your brain into your heart. Now, when you start breathing a little bit more slowly, you're actually, a switch is turned on and you are signaling to your body that it is safe. It is safe to turn your attention inwards. Okay, and then step number 3 is that you consciously activate a positive memory involving one of the following emotions: compassion, gratitude, love, and just really step into it. So just still keep your eyes closed, go inwards, and just feel one of these emotions: gratitude, care, appreciation, and compassion. Make a sincere attempt to experience a regenerative feeling, memory. Maybe think of a time when you were birthing your baby and you were just so in love with that being coming out of you. Or maybe it's the first time you held your puppy and you just felt so much joy and you were bonding. And just allow yourself to feel all those emotions. Just really step into it. Imagine, what you were feeling, thinking, smelling, tasting, touching. Maybe you were touching their velvety fur, you were petting them, the sun was on your back. Just really step into that. And when you're doing this, you're actually producing more of the mother hormone called DHEA from the adrenal. So when we live in this heart-centered way, when we're sort of in a loving state and not so much in our heads, then we're actually producing hormone balance, which is fascinating and which is the quote you started off with. So just stay there for a few more minutes, and then when you're ready, come out of it and come back to your body and come back to your present state. I usually play some music to allow clients to really step into it. By the way, you can rewire your biochemistry using this simple 10-minute technique with this heart-brain coherence that we just demonstrated. It's turning on over 1,300 different reactions, from immune response to anti-aging hormones to creating super memory, all from this 10-minute process. And this lasts for up to 6 hours. So it's so powerful, and it's something that you can do, just, ritualize and practice over and over again. But yeah, that's a super biohack.
So you do it for 10
coherence.
minutes, what you taught me?
Yes, exactly. Just play some beautiful music. If I had known, I would have streamed some music, um, just some really soothing music, and then close your eyes, go inward, touch your heart so you can feel the beat. Slow down your breath, because that's signaling the body. It actually turns on a switch that tells you, well, okay, I'm safe. It's okay to go inwards. And then after you've slowed down your breathing, then you activate this positive emotion: care, compassion, gratitude, and appreciation. Really step into it with all 5 of your senses. What were you seeing? What were you feeling? What were you tasting? What were you touching? Really step into it. Feel the emotion like you're there, like it's happening right now. And let those emotions wash over you, and then return back to your present body and just enjoy the magical feeling all day long.
So it sounds wonderful. I mean, I felt like, even though I'm in your presence, but I was within, and I was,
Yeah.
I
How
was
did you feel? Yeah.
visualizing.
What did you experience?
It was good, I went to my past memories, and where I'm like feeling good, in a way.
Yes. Yes.
And I also noted
Exactly.
that my heart has, I felt a little bit inflamed. So maybe I need to do
Yes.
this. Some inflammation
Yes.
is, that means some
Exactly.
emotions are trapped there. So I need to work on
Yes,
my
some
heart.
emotions are trying to come
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
And actually, there's this book that Harvard MD Candace Pert wrote called The Molecules of Emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And when we, like I said, when we can process things from the lens of the heart, see, the heart doesn't judge it as good, bad, wrong,
Mm-hmm.
right, success, failure. So whatever happened in the past, it can allow you to process through those emotions and then metabolize them through your body. Like you said, maybe some tears will come out, maybe through your
Mm-hmm.
sweat, maybe through your urine, maybe through tears. And then once those emotions leave, then that is the moment that creates extraordinary healing for your
Mm-hmm.
body. So you
Mm-hmm.
can really step into it, feel it, honor those lessons, learn from it, and then come on the other side and transmute it. I
Mm-hmm.
always say that the worst thing that can happen to you, like when I had my cancer diagnosis, I obviously, like anyone else, you think that that's the worst thing, but it actually became my greatest gift because I went deep and I said, well, what is the reason I attracted this? Because we are creators, we create everything in our lives. And so that is what took me down this path of nutrition and functional medicine. And once I healed, I knew that I'm going to be the shining the light for so many other women going through this. And so the worst thing that happened to me became the best thing if
Mm-hmm.
we can honor those lessons and learn from them.
That's true. So, Rupina, you have a hormone harmony program, and there you teach about fat loss without any extreme measures, such as calorie
Yes,
restriction or detoxes or fasting or exercising.
yes,
And I
yes,
wonder, how do you achieve that? I mean, because I feel, whenever I try to focus on my nutrition, actually I crave more. And if I go for
yes,
any exercising, I cannot continue it for a long time. And I
right.
also feel that, if I do exercising, I feel more fatigued.
Yes, those are some good points. So my program is a triage of three different protocols. So when you have hormonal imbalances, like I said, it's something called HPA axis. And let me break that down for you. HPA is hypothalamic, the hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenal. It's the axis that runs from your brain through your gut all the way to your tailbone. So the three protocols I employ is first we balance your blood sugar
Mm-hmm.
because blood sugar, when your blood sugar is wobbly and up and down, and most people are eating all the time, and that creates something called insulin resistance, right? Because we're not meant to be eating all the time. I do something called intermittent fasting or time restricted eating. So you eat only within an 8-hour window and you typically fast for 14 to 16 hours. That is a magical thing for your body because it turns on something called BDNF, brain derived neurotropic factors like miracle grow for your brain. And it really sharpens your productivity, it sharpens your metabolism. So we're not meant to be eating all the time, right? And when people are eating 3 meals and then a couple of snacks, so their blood sugar is high. Let's say you have a standard Starbucks Frappuccino. That one drink has 54 grams of refined sugar. So people feel all bubbly and jazzed, and they go to work or they're in a meeting, and then 1 hour later, what goes up must come down. They have that sharp crash, and they're like, they feel moody, they can't focus. And so, what I teach them, I have this formula called protein, fat, and fiber. And I find that in certain specific amounts, that balances your blood sugar.
Mm-hmm.
So, first of all, don't eat all the time because when you're constantly eating, you see, it's kind of like eating is a digestion is a very energy intensive process. So it's sort of like when countries at war, all the budget is directed towards the military, right? The country is not going to focus on repairing the roads or building schools or construction because everything is going into military. It's the same thing when you're constantly eating, all that energy is going towards digestion and assimilation. But if you stop eating, then the body can actually focus on healing and say, okay, well, there's a damaged cell here, there's a damaged cell there. Let me focus on that. And it will work on rehabilitation and rebuilding that. But if you're constantly just shoving your face with food, then it can't do that.
Mhm.
So time restricted eating is wonderful. So there's different ways that you balance the blood sugar. I can't get into all of it, but
Yeah.
there is a formula, there's specific things I teach. So that's number one. Number two is to heal and seal the gut wall, because most people are walking around with something called leaky gut.
Mhm.
Have you heard of the expression
Yeah.
leaky gut? Or it's called intestinal permeability. So what happens is that the think of the intestines, if you spread out the intestines, they're the size of the surface area of two tennis courts, two
Mhm.
tennis courts. But the width is the diameter of a human hair. So imagine one human hair, that's the width. That's what separates your gut wall from the bloodstream. So it's very, very fragile, as you can imagine, one human hair, the diameter. So when you are stressed, again, cortisol pokes holes in that intestinal lining and it creates leaky gut. It creates leaky brain where people can't focus. And so then all the undigested food and the toxins that are supposed to be restricted within your gut leak out into the blood. Now, your skin is the default organ of elimination. So a lot
Mhm.
of women are struggling with rashes, eczema, psoriasis. That is not a disease of the skin. That is a disease of the gut. So
Uh-huh.
when you heal the microbiome is all the different gut bacteria and their DNA. There's 500 pounds of bacteria. So we're actually more bacteria and less human. We're 90% bacteria. We're only 10% human. This will blow people's minds. They're like, what? I'm like, yeah, let me repeat that. We are only 10% human DNA, 90% bacterial DNA. And those bacteria do the heavy lifting for you. They produce B12, which gives you that energy. They produce the neurotransmitters like serotonin, which gives you that feeling of calm and joy, right? 90% of the serotonin is produced in the gut, not in the brain. So when people are depressed and they're taking something called an SSRI, a serotonin, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, that's only addressing the 5% of the serotonin that's produced in the brain. But what about the other 90% that's produced in the gut? So you've got to have upregulate the microbiome, remove the pathogenic organisms. When you're eating a carbohydrate rich diet or a lot of sugar, then just like a hotel attracts different types of guests, we attract some of the bad bugs, the candida and the pathogenic bugs, right? And that's why so many women have yeast infections and candida, parasites. So you've got to eliminate those pathogenic, but stop feeding them sugar, add more of the good bugs through fiber rich foods, and heal and seal the gut wall. So that's number two. And then number three is that we up level the organs of detoxification, which is primarily the liver. Most people don't realize, but I have never met a single person who has a hormonal imbalances that also doesn't have a congested liver,
Mhm.
because the liver is responsible for eliminating all of the metabolized. Metabolized simply means used up hormones. So the golden rule of estrogen is to use it or lose it. But what happens with estrogen dominance, which leads to hormonal cancers and breast cancer and uterine cancer, what happens in those cases is that the metabolized estrogen goes to the liver, but the liver is so congested that it can't eliminate it. So it makes a U-turn, it comes back into the body like bad karma.
Mhm.
And that is a really bad thing. So what you want to do is you want to eliminate it and get it out of the body so that it doesn't recirculate and come back, because that is the genesis of a lot of hormonal cancers. So those
So,
are the three things that we work with in my Hormone Harmony program. We regulate blood sugar, we heal and seal the gut wall, and we up-level the organs of detoxification. And then I put in, again, a lot of the work is about self-regulating the nervous system, something that we just did, like the heart-brain
mhm.
coherence.
Mhm.
And through breath work, through different meditation, through different practices, we are signaling the nervous system to move into parasympathetic and rest and digest. And that is the biggest beneficial thing for your hormones, to have your hormones work for you instead of
Mhm.
against you.
Okay. So again, Rupina, the same question I'm asking you. How do you stop yourself from eating unhealthy food? How do you curb your cravings?
Okay. Okay. Great question. So a lot of times people say that I have no willpower.
Mhm.
But it's not about willpower, it's about skill power. When you know better, you do better. So, first of all, when you stop eating junk food and processed carbs, then your blood sugar isn't going up and down, up and down. When it crashes, that leads to cravings. But if your blood sugar is stable, if we stabilize it through protein, fat, and fiber, then you'll have that satiety and you're not going to have any cravings at
Mhm.
all. Secondly, like I said, a lot of the cravings come from the type of bacteria that you have in your gut. If you have the pathogenic bacteria,
Mhm.
such as Candida, they're literally barking for sugar. So we have to eliminate those Candida, the pathogenic bacteria, and implement the healthy bacteria through probiotic rich foods such as fermented vegetables.
Mhm.
1 teaspoon of fermented vegetables has more healthy bacteria than an entire bottle of designer probiotics that you may purchase for more than $50 or $75 at the store.
Mhm.
So eating fermented foods, fermented vegetables like beets, they're in the refrigerated section of the grocery store. So they actually have live bacteria, but those are the healthy bacteria. And so that way you're going to eliminate some of your cravings.
So if I ask you, we being Indian, we have all these pickles. So do you think that these pickles, mango pickle or lemon pickle, are they good or
Well,
bad?
well, great question. So the pickles that you see in the Indian store are not refrigerated, they are dead. So
Mhm.
there is no live bacteria. What I'm talking about is live fermented food, which you find, I don't know about Oman, but over here, like in Whole Foods or whatever, we can go and there's a refrigerated section where you can get these fermented. They have to be refrigerated at all times because it's
Like
live
kimchi.
bacteria. So exactly like kimchi. Absolutely right. And so start out slow because when you start out, if you do too much, you'll have a lot of gas and bloating, and people say, gosh, I don't feel well. I'm like, just start with a few drops, maybe just a few liquid. And then you build up to half a teaspoon, then 1 teaspoon, then 2 teaspoons. And then that way you will normalize the healthy flora in your gut, and then you won't have so many cravings.
Mhm. Okay.
Another reason why you have cravings is when you're stressed, because
Mhm.
cortisol dances with insulin. So so then insulin comes and the body is asking for more sugar constantly. You're constantly knocking on the door, and then that's what creates insulin resistance because your cells become numb to insulin and they can't take it like they used to.
Mhm.
So if you reduce your stress, if you can shift more, find the button, do some deep breathing, pranayama, do a short meditation, do the heart brain coherence, you're not going to find that you're going to need that sugar hit, or you're not going to need that. You're
Mhm.
just going to eliminate those cravings.
Mhm. I think
Does that
Anil,
make
you have
sense?
given like lots of tips because the craving is one of the issue, one of the main issue. If
Yes,
we are eating
yes,
well, if we are feeding our
yes,
body well, along with intermittent fasting, I think lots of
exactly.
problems we can solve.
Exactly. By the way, on that, I've actually written a book on that. It's called
Uh-huh.
Cravings Cure,
Uh-huh.
Effortless Energy and Fat Loss Never Tasted So Good. So the
Wow.
book is divided into 3 phases. It's a DIY approach to balancing your blood sugar. So anyone can and read the book and balance their blood sugar. The first section, I've explained the different types of sugars, simple versus complex, and which sugars, a lot of people like think agave is good,
Mhm.
but no, it's not. Fructose, what are the bad sugars? What are the good sugars? What sugars are safe for diabetics or people with cancer? There's things like stevia or
Mhm.
now Lohan Go. Uh, monk fruit. Those are not going to create a lot of gyrations in your glycemic index. So it's all in the book. And then I teach you how to purge your refrigerator and pantry of all the bad stuff and replace it with healthier, yummier options. So
Mhm.
instead of yogurt, you can do coconut yogurt because dairy is a mucolytic. It's terrible
Mhm.
for inflammation. So instead of regular milk yogurt, you can do coconut yogurt. There's something called cocoyo, live coconut yogurt that we get that's filled with these fermented organisms. Very, very yummy, wonderful for the gut. It will address all of your cravings, also gives you beautiful skin
Mhm.
because beautiful skin starts from the gut.
Mhm.
So,
Never heard
and
about
then
coconut yogurt.
oh, yeah, it's very popular here. And then the third part of the book is I teach this blood sugar balancing formula. And to illustrate the formula, I have 7 super yummy breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and not to mention super yummy dessert recipes where you can have your cake and eat it too. So it's not going to spike your blood sugar, but it's loaded with healthy fats and proteins, which will satiate your cravings and keep your blood sugar stable, and it's good for you.
So
So it's
this
the
book is
ultimate.
available on Amazon.
No, actually, you know what? We can drop the link in the show notes.
Okay.
It's just at zen-nutrition.com
So
forward
it's on your
slash
website.
cravings cure. It's on
Okay.
my website. Yep.
Okay.
And they can just download it there and
Yes.
learn how to balance their blood sugar. Yeah,
Nice.
real simple.
Yeah. So Rupina, you are also offering to our VIP audience some offer as part of our VIP package.
Yes,
And what is that?
yes, absolutely. Yeah, so I have a hormone quiz on my website, and anyone can take that. And that it tells you again. This is from my training with Harvard MD Sarah
Mhm.
Gottfried. It's a 8-part quiz, and it tests for different like high cortisol, high estrogen, low progesterone, high testosterone, and high thyroid. So you'll take the thing, and then I will jump on a call and unpack the results for you and customize. So a lot of times women are confused when they just take the quiz and they're like, well, how is it possible that I can have high cortisol and low cortisol at the same time? I'm like, it's totally possible because cortisol is diurnal. It fluctuates with the cycles of the sun and the moon, right?
Mhm.
And so it's supposed to be super high in the morning and then it's supposed to be low. But most people have an inverted cortisol rhythm or they have a flat cortisol rhythm, which is very dangerous. And so I explained, and in perimenopause, it is very normal to have high cortisol at night and low cortisol in the day. So it is entirely possible to have both high and low cortisol. So I'll break it down and unpack it for each person, for your VIP subscriber, and tell them exactly what is going on, which hormones are out of whack. We'll do a detailed dive into their health history, what they're dealing with, what are their goals, what are their challenges, and then they'll walk away with a customized blueprint of how to eat, sleep, manage their nervous system, and supplement to get those hormones back on track. So from out of whack to back on track, and it's my 90-minute breakthrough hormonal health consultation. It's over $500 that I normally charge, and I've discounted it for your subscribers, and we can do a deep dive and get to work. So
I
I
think
think
it's
they'll, if
wonderful.
they're
You know, whoever
struggling,
is going to avail.
anything from PCOS to, heavy menstrual cycles, bleeding, cramping, belly fat that won't budge, insomnia, skin issues, memory issues, it all comes back to your hormones. So we will figure out what's going on with your hormones and then create a custom blueprint so that you can balance it naturally without drugs, without medications, and all of that.
Wow, this is amazing. You know, I mean, in 90 minutes, you will figure out everything for us. So it's very nice for hormone balancing.
Yes, ab yes, absolutely. And I
So
work with, and through the world is a global village.
yeah,
So We can
With
work
Zoom,
on
everything is
Zoom, and
possible.
with Zoom, everything is possible. So exactly.
Okay. So, and also you will recommend to go for some testing, blood sugar testing, or I mean, or
Yes.
anything in
So
blood.
yes, absolutely. So I can, as a health coach, there are now certain, I don't know how it is in Oman, but over here in the
I
US,
mean, Abu
there
Dhabi.
are certain ones. Oh, in Abu Dhabi. Okay, gotcha. So you can, there are certain portals where you can order your own blood work, or if you are working with a functional medicine doctor or a naturopath doctor, then I work with them. Or if they've already done the testing, I can interpret the test and say, this is what's going on.
Mhm.
So there's different ways that we can
There are
go.
different
If the
ways
person
possible.
already has their test, they can bring it to the consultation and I will go over it and say this and this. If they don't have it, we can say, can your natural doctor run it, order it for you if they want insurance to pay it, or they can order it themselves and I can get the results direct.
Yeah, and I feel, because I have suffered a lot, but now I'm much better because I'm also a coach. But I feel,
So,
if people approach to a
uh-huh.
holistic coach like you, it's much better than knocking doors of doctor. So thank you,
Yeah,
Rupina.
because here's the thing. Now,
Hello, I
yeah,
lost you.
absolutely. My
There is a
pleasure.
lag,
Thank
so
you for
I'm
having.
not able to catch,
Yes, can you hear
that
me?
if you're talking or not sometimes. Sorry.
I.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Is it good now?
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful.
So you were saying
Wonderful.
something.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I was saying that when they go to a functional medicine doctor, the challenge is that, first of all, it's very expensive. They normally charge like $1,200 to run all these tests and for one session, right?
Mhm.
And they'll tell them go on a gluten-free diet, dairy-free, eliminate sugar and all of that. But then the people don't know how to do it. They come home and they're like, how do I change my life? How do I feed my kids? How do I make my husband happy? How do I figure out how to do this without a coach? So I actually give them in my 3-month program, they can call me from the grocery store. They can text me in the middle of the night, or if a guest has come or whatever, and they have that 360-degree support, so
Mhm.
I can tell them what to do.
Yeah.
And that's invaluable because, so yeah, I'm sort of, I consider a functional medicine coach is the bridge between the integrated physician and the patient, because they may tell them that do this and do gluten free and dairy free and sugar free, but people don't know how to actually execute and integrate on that.
Mhm.
So when they
Mhm.
work with me, I break it down for them. I give them recipes, I give them everything, so it's step by step. We break it down and they're like, okay, I can do this. I know how to cook now. I know
Mhm.
how to shop. I know how to feed my kids. And there's no deprivation. Like I said, the recipes in my book are super. Actually, sometimes people say, oh my God, this tastes so good. Are you sure this is good for me? Because it's so yummy. And that's why I say you can have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah. It all depends on the
Yeah.
ingredients.
It all depends on the ingredients. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you, Rupina, and for sharing, everything about how, like, about hormone balancing and how to curb your cravings and your VIP offer. So I
Yes.
enjoyed a lot conversing with you, and definitely I learned a lot today, and which is very important for my overall well-being. And I'm sure, our listeners too
Yes.
feel the same way. So it was great talking to you.
Absolutely. Well, it's my great honor and pleasure to support those in your tribe, and I look forward to connecting with them one on one in the VIP session or otherwise. Yeah.
Actually, I might connect with you also.
Wonderful. I would love that.
Thank
Please.
you.
It would be